branded with a heavenly implication, pledged to a meaning which is, but not yet. Loaned to the world at terrific interest, subject to swift recall. Look out, child, beware. This silvery image stamped on your brow, lest it appear someday stamped in flames upon your heart. Please be seated. A good number of years ago, on a day similar, unfortunately, to this, it was raining. Friends of mine and I were going around doing some shopping, and this one friend, she got out of the car and she put her hand like this every time she got out of the car, and would run to the store and then take her hand down. And after a while, I looked at her and I asked, what are you doing? She said, I don't want my glasses to get wet. I found it quite amusing, and this good friend of mine, she still, to this day, covers her glasses. Covering our glasses keeps us from being able to not see, right? It helps us to have clear glasses. I know that mine, especially when I work in the wood shop, are so dirty I can barely see through them. It's nice to be able to see. But at baptism, when we take the child and we set them in the font, and pour water over their heads, water covers the face. Water covers the eyes. Water goes everywhere. For all of a sudden, you could say, the child can't see, just like my friend, and the child couldn't put their hand to cover it. But what if that is actually what we are supposed to have happen to us? Not clouded, but a new way of seeing from baptism. What if that water becomes a kaleidoscope? You know, like water in the sky, when the light hits it, it refracts and becomes a beautiful rainbow. Maybe that's what that water is all about. That it is to change our sight. Change the way in which we see the world. Change the way in which the world comes towards us. Kind of like a kaleidoscope. For when we go as baptized people into the world, that kaleidoscope is changed. It's bright, it's colorful, it's filled with beauty and joy, but we also see things a little bit differently as Christians, Jesus says. We are to see things and act upon them in new ways. We are to see things new. We are to have a new sight. We are to have those colors with dark lines and some not so pretty colors come through much more clearly so that we may be better able to respond to them. Baptism. Jesus has given us baptism, one of the two great sacraments of the church. Baptism and Holy Communion, one in which we are entered into the life of Christ and one on which we are to be fed for that life, week after week. We are dedicated, we are stamped with that silvery image on our brow. This story that we heard today in the Gospel of Luke was told once before. This time in the first book of Samuel. For there was a woman, her name was Hannah. She was barren, a young woman. She could not conceive. So she went to the she muttered words, and this prophet sitting next to her said, "Come on, stop making a spectacle." She said, "Sir, I am childless." He said, "In due time you will conceive." And in due time she did. And she dedicated that child as a Nazarene to the Lord. She put a stamp on his forehead. Now, in our prayer books, both the past prayer book and the current prayer book says something challenging. It says that the child, when we're talking about infant or children's baptism, are given to the priest. Now, the priest is not the person in this sense. It is the church. The priest receives the baby and pours the water over its head. That water covers the face. That water gives new sight. But it never says to give the child back. The church receives the child. Wow! That would change things, wouldn't it? For yes, we must care for our children, but the child is no longer ours. It is a gift. It is a gift in which we give the child faith, to wear crosses around our necks, to allow that silvery image implanted on their foreheads to burn in their hearts. That child, just like Eli, received Samuel, who went on to anoint King David. King David, king over Israel. It was stamped. It was imprinted. And the child was never the same again. Today, in that gospel lesson, you also may have noted, don't get me wrong, I do prepare very diligently for these. But even listening on Sunday morning, something new will come to me as I listen. And today I heard this one little phrase that I unfortunately had missed over the week. It said, "And the people were baptized with him." You may have noted that. It wasn't just Jesus who was baptized today. The people were baptized as well. Their faith, the Spirit, the dove, not just rested on Jesus as they all saw, but instilled that fire in their hearts as well. And that kaleidoscope, grew, and its beauty and its joy was made real in their lives. And guess what? Jesus never gave them back to the world either. They were his. They became people of the living God of Jesus. So, that spirit, that movement, that gift. At our house, we heat with a wood stove. Many of you may as well have one of those very Vermonty things in your house, and you put wood in and feed it, and every once in a while we put a kettle of water on it. So to give a little bit of moisture to the air. And every once in a while when I fill it up, I drop a few drops unintentionally right on the cast iron. And what does it do? Of course, it immediately turns to steam. It bubbles, it boils, you can hear it hiss, and poof, it changes. It's something new, this water. I am often sad because we don't baptize too many children, but when we don't, I put this out, right? And I have well, today I'll sprinkle with my hands. We forgot to cut a branch. Don't worry, Patty probably forgot to tell us, so we all forgot. And people go and look at me and say, oh, we got to get wet today. It gets on our glasses. Maybe that water is like as though we have that fire in our belly. And immediately it turns to steam because we are filled with fire. And that kaleidoscope is made new. And we are the children of God. Amen.